Okay, it's time for a little fact or fiction. One of my favorite types of episodes. So here it comes. My name is Phil, and you're listening to The Lip. Wow. Right now it's September 20th. And if you've been paying attention to my reels and posts on the YouTube channel at Phil the Lip, you'll know that this past week I had a little bit of a hiccup in my bicep tear surgery path. Turned out that instead of going to a surgical center, I needed to switch out to go to a hospital. There was an issue. But that's okay. It turns out that almost immediately I was able to get a new appointment. So on September 23rd, 2024, I'm going to go and visit with a doctor, again, a different doctor, because he's the only one who's got the availability in order to do the surgery, and do all the pre-admission work that same day. And because of the time-sensitive nature of a bicep tear, I will be scheduled for surgery on the 24th of September 2024, the next day, which is very good because my original surgery was planned for the 25th, 2024 of September. So even though there was a little hiccup and a bit unnerving for about a day, everything is good, everything is clear and ready to go. And as I'm recording, it is September 20th, 2024. I know this episode isn't going to come out until October 12th, when you're actually going to be hearing this. But that's okay. I'm going to tell you where I'm going to be approximately during that time period. I will most likely still be in a cast, if not have already moved to the brace, because I was told that I was going to be in a cast for about 2 weeks after surgery. So this probably is in the neighborhood of real close to that 2 week period of time. So more likely than not, I'll either be in the last day or two of being in a cast or the first day or two of having my brace put on. So either way, I'll still be in a relative state of discomfort and really not gonna want to actually perform a show. But I haven't missed one in 177 episodes as of the one that I'm recording right now. And even though I'm going to be laid up and convalescing for a little while, I'm going to still continue to put out shows. Thus, Fact or Fiction number 14, one of my favorite types of shows. I know that this is probably only the second one that I've done on the YouTube channel, and I hope that anyone who hasn't listened to it before will take an opportunity to go back to the Spotify, check out the lip there, and check out all the episodes, but more specifically, if you want to feel more familiar and how interesting I personally think the Fact or Fiction episodes are, what you should do is go back and you can check out all the other Fact or Fiction episodes which are on the Spotify channel. You will also be able to find April Fool's Day episodes. Now, those April Fool's Day episodes are also Fact or Fiction. In fact, the obvious reason is because it's April Fool's. I wanted to try to fool some people with a few things, and thus Fact or Fiction. That's how it all kind of got started. So if you go all the way back to my original April Fool's episode, that will be the first Fact or Fiction episode I actually did. And like I said, I have 2 of those. And so that means in total there will be 16 Fact or Fiction episodes over the last 177 shows that I've done. I hope you enjoy. If you haven't, like I said, it's one of my favorite types, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to work in case you hadn't heard it before. But right now, it's time to fill in the blanks. As I told you, I'm most likely going to be still in a cast after my bicep surgery. If not, I'll have a brace on. But for those of you who've never been in a cast, there is something I can certainly assure you of. There is an itch problem that seems to develop not the first couple days, but usually midway through the time you're about to get rid of the cast, you start to have an itch. Doesn't matter if it's on your leg or your arm, that itch shows up. It just does. It happens, right? And what my question is going to be, what can you do? No. How can you reach the itch that you get inside your cast? The answer that is going to fill in this blank is, from my perspective, there's nothing you can do. Because it turned out that the cast that I had previously was on my ankle, and it seemed like the itch was just out of reach. And my theory would be that no matter what object you may try, you don't want to get it too deep in there, especially if it's a surgical cast, because you've had surgery. You don't want to be reaching stuff in there. So I've determined that the itch is always going to be just out of reach, and you're not going to quite be able to get to it. So the question that the fill in the blanks comes to you with is, how do you scratch the itch in your cast? And my answer is, you can't, because it's always going to be just a little bit out of reach. It's just the way it seems to work. Now, the bell's going to ring, and the main event is going to begin. Fact or fiction number 14. And for those of you who have listened to the show before, you know how it works. But to those of you who've not listened to the show, I'm going to give you the rundown of how it's going to work. I'm going to give you 6 stories or statements. And I'm going to tell you everything that's going on with those stories or the statement. And at the end of the episode, well, end of the main event, I'm going to give you probably about a little bit of time. Not to mention, you can always pause it if you want and then rewind and go back, which is the beauty of recorded media. And you can think over which ones were actually fact or fiction. Now, these stories and statements that I'm going to tell you happened to me, at least the ones that are fact. They either happened to me or I actually witnessed what took place. And the ones that are fiction, well, that's just that. They've come out of the creativity of my mind. And it turns out that a few of the fiction ones, I'm going to pat myself on the back, but you can't see me right now. Some of those have come from some very interesting spots. For example, there have been times with the fiction that I have just poured my heart and soul over a couple of minutes or maybe even an hour at one time and come up with an elaborate story. Other times, I was literally sitting here in my office, didn't have enough, and I just came up with something on the fly. And then my favorite ones is sometimes I would try to do things that were happening at the moment, but they weren't really actually what it turned out to be. But you can never tell. I'm doing these recordings live. I never edit, so it's a possibility that something could go awry, and I would actually consider that one of the things that's going to be in the fact of fiction. But now, I'm going to begin with the first one. I was on my way back home from going to eat. And as I was on my way home, there was a pretty bad accident. You could see it in the distance. But the only issue with this was all I could see was lights at the moment. Couldn't tell where the accident had happened. As I started to drive up closer, I noticed that the accident was in the area where I needed to turn off in order to get home. Slightly frustrating, but it wasn't as bad as the person who was in the accident, because apparently they tore their car completely up. But, on a positive note, the person who was in the accident couldn't have had a better place to be in an accident. And grant you don't really want to ever be in an accident. But if you could pick a place to have a major accident, you couldn't possibly pick a better place than this person did. The accident took place directly in front of a fire station that had a first aid operation in it as well. So it was instant, pretty much, I imagine. As soon as the accident happened, nobody even had to call 911 because the firemen and the first aid responders literally would have heard it right from their front door, and they could have run right out there and started administering first aid and helping the person who was in the accident. And I can only imagine that it's exactly what happened, because it literally happened right at their front door. Now, did I actually witness, as I was on my way home, a car in a bad situation directly in front of a first aid fire station? Or am I just blowing smoke at you? Next, I was watching a college football game, and I saw probably one of the coolest plays that I had ever seen in my entire life. Combination of cool and strange. And I've seen reels and actual seen this happen while watching a game from time to time. And I've never seen this situation together. What happened was, the quarterback went back to pass, and he threw the ball, and the ball was deflected. Now, when the ball was deflected, the quarterback caught his own pass. And once he caught his own pass, he started to run because he can't throw it again. As he's running, he gets into the position to dodge a few defenders. However, in the process of doing that, he got in the path of the referee. And the referee essentially tackled him. The quarterback bumped into the referee fell and took out the quarterback. So on one play, I got to see a quarterback catch his own pass and then get tackled essentially by the referee. Now, like I said, I've seen videos and I've actually seen Drew Brees do it a couple times in reality, where when I was watching a game, Drew Brees threw the ball, got it batted down, but he caught it himself, and then he ran. And I've also seen a couple spots where a quarterback, it was in reels only, or some other player was running and they ran into the path of the referee, and the referee knocked the player down. But I've never seen, at the same time, a player catch his own pass and then get tackled by the referee. Just amazing. Now, did that actually happen, or should you throw a flag on me? You'll find out at the end. Next, let's see. Ah, while I was waiting in the parking lot at a store, I saw a guy essentially lose his mind. He put his groceries inside his car from his shopping cart, and a driver came up real close to him when he was doing so and parked next to him. The guy flipped out, literally lost his mind. As I would imagine, he turned into the Red Hulk. Not the Green Hulk, but the Red Hulk. Flames coming off of his body and being able to control them. He was really agitated. The person stood there with the cart in his hand, and the guy who got out of the car, who was real close to the guy who just put his groceries in his car, looked at him and just walked by. Now, the guy with the shopping cart really lost it at that point. Took the cart like he was going to take it back to the, I guess, the corral for the carts, whatever I guess what you call it. Turned as far as he could and ran that cart directly into the headlights of the car that had parked next to him, because it pulled all the way through the space. So he ran around up to the front of the car, backed up as far as he could, and just rammed the cart into the headlights of the car that it was parked next to. And the headlights were cracked a little bit. So what he did was he backed up again, and he rammed the cart into the headlights again. And there was more cracking until he did it maybe 2-3 more times, and finally the headlight completely shattered. It was a mess. At that point, the guy seemed to have turned back into Thunderbolt Patterson instead of the Red Hulk, calmly walked the cart back to the corral, put it away, got back into his own car, and proceeded to drive down the road. Now, after seeing that, it was very difficult for me to understand what was going on. So, I simply got out of my car and got back in my car, and then I left. Do you think that I actually saw somebody just lose their mind because they almost got hit by a car and destroy the headlights of the car that almost hit them? Or should you actually just hop in your car and keep on rolling down the road because there's no truth to what I said? Alright. Moving on. The first thing that I ever caught while fishing was an eel. I had been fishing twice with my father and hadn't caught anything. Neither of us did those times. But this, the third time's a charm, certainly comes to fruition. I caught an eel. It was a little unnerving because my mind wasn't really wrapped around some snake-like thing coming out of the water at the time, because I was only in second or third grade. Third grade. Yeah, I was in third grade. And so I didn't know what to do, and I ended up throwing it back in the water. So, did I catch an eel in my first time catching a fish? Or should you throw that story back in the water? Here we go. The next story. I fell down the stairs a week after I tore my bicep. I fell down the stairs a week after I tore my bicep. I had already hurt myself. Tried to do that stupid thing to get my, I guess it was a pen that fell behind the couch. And so my arm was hurting. The kids were upstairs, and I went up there because they were a little loud at bedtime, and I didn't bother turning the lights on. So I go upstairs, I find out what's going on, get everybody calmed down and corralled. I then shut both doors, say goodnight to everybody, and go downstairs again. However, I never did turn the light on in the hall, stood in the stairway, going down the stairs. As I get to, I don't know, second step to the landing before hitting the floor, I stepped on something, wasn't sure what it was, and I go down. And in the process of going down, I land on my shoulder, jarring my already torn bicep, bruising my calf, and getting a pretty good scrape. Not to mention, I already have a bulging disc in my back between L4 and L5. Needless to say, I'm sitting on the ground, writhing in pain. But of course, being the man, being a Gen X guy, I don't call for any help. I lay there for probably, I don't know, 5-6 minutes, and then I do what all Gen Xers do. Rub a little dirt on my arm, rub a little dirt on my leg, stand up, and continue on through the night. Do you think that I fell down the stairs, maybe a week after I tore my bicep? Or do you think the trip that I'm taking you on is going nowhere? I'll tell you in a couple minutes. Finally, one of the most egregious sins that could ever happen, I bared witness to and was the victim of. I ordered a pizza. The delivery driver walks up to the house, rings the doorbell. I get off the couch. I open the door. The delivery driver turns around for just a minute because he's readjusting everything, because he also brought me a 2-liter bottle of soda as well. And he puts the soda down, and then it happened. The pizza that he was holding, clumsily, in one hand, after he readjusted himself so that he could get the soda, falls to the ground. It's in slow motion, almost like one of those brawny paper towel commercials. No. There's nothing that can be done. The pizza flips end over end, and hits the ground with about 3 slices coming loose and hitting the front porch. Now, I know what you're thinking. This person is not getting a tip. Oh no. I think this person deserved to have gotten a definite tip that I didn't give him, which would have been a spear right through his passenger window. But we are more civilized people than to do that. Thus, he made it out without any money. We called the pizzeria. They were able to be in a fortuitous situation where they had just finished making a slice pie that was about to be sold and in slices, and rather than put it up for the display, they boxed it and had a different delivery driver bring it over to me. He was able to not drop it. It's almost like when you see a player in the NFL fumble, rainy day, but they're not wearing any gloves. But this guy was wearing the gloves. He sprayed the stickum on it, which was a substance which is illegal because it allows you to grip things better. And this time, the pizza did not fall. This was a traumatic incident, and I survived it, and so did the pizza delivery guy. Now, my question to you is, as a pizza fan that I am, would I have allowed that pizza delivery guy to walk away from that incident unscathed? Or is just the story that I'm telling you the worst nightmare that I would ever have? I'll tell you in a little bit. And what I'm going to do right now is give you a pause in the action so that you can contemplate what was fact and what was fiction. Okay. By now, you have either figured it out or you are lost. But either way, it's time for me to reveal to you the truth. Fact or fiction. We're going to start with the first one. It's always good to start at the beginning, right? On my way back from getting dinner, I saw a car accident that had happened directly in front of a fire station. This is true. It's the craziest thing. As I'm recording this episode right now, it's September 20th, 2024. I guess that accident was probably, I don't know, if I had to guess, September 17th or 18th. And it was crazy because part of me, when I first saw it, was like, man, that's a really bad accident. Car's front end is all dented in, and windshield's all busted out. Person definitely severely hurt, I imagine. And then it dawned on me where the accident had taken place, directly in front of the fire station, where the EMTs are at. And they're there all the time. So, literally, they did hear that accident. I didn't see it when it occurred, but there's no question that they absolutely heard the accident, and maybe even some of them could have seen it if they were out with the bay doors to the fire trucks open, because they do that quite frequently, and they were able to administer aid to that person almost instantaneously. No doubt, that accident that I saw in front of the fire station did happen. Now, of course, I had to be redirected, and what I did was I got some canes, the chicken tenders, and it took me a while to redirect in order to get home. So I actually ate on the road, finished up before I got home. But this absolutely did happen. Now, the college football play that I saw that was just had the two strangest things that have ever happened. A quarterback threw a pass and caught it to himself. Happens once in a while because shorter quarterbacks, tall, big defensive linemen and linebackers jump up there and bat the ball down. And then occasionally a referee will be in the wrong position and run into a player and take the player down. Which is even funnier when the referee takes the player down. No pads, no nothing, and the player goes down. You would think that the player in the pads would knock the referee over and maybe injure him. But from time to time, the referee does in fact take the player down. Now, the play that I saw, in fact, this quarterback from, I believe, which school was it? I think it was, because the game that I watched was Central Michigan versus Illinois. And it actually happened September 14th. And I want to say it was Illinois. I'm sure it was Illinois. Their quarterback threw a pass, got batted down. Quarterback caught it. Quarterback started running. And then the referee was in the worst possible spot, or maybe the quarterback. Well, you figure it's a playing field. The quarterback couldn't have been in the wrong place, right? As long as he's in bounds. But the referee ran into the quarterback, and down goes Frazier. Quarterback goes down. So effectively, the quarterback was tackled by the referee. And it happened on the same play. Caught his own pass, tackled by the referee. Central Michigan versus Illinois. This was a fact. Really happened. And it was a lesser game, some people would say. But I thought that I'm going to give it a try. And I'm so glad that I did, because that was a cool play I saw this year for sure. Next. While at a store, waiting in my car, I saw a guy run a shopping cart into the headlights of a car that almost hit him. Now, granted, when I lived in New Jersey, in the Manchester area, there was a certain shopping center for a certain supermarket where a certain aged set of citizens lived and were frequenting this supermarket, and there were fights all the time. Physical fights in the parking lot, over parking spaces, and over all kinds of other little infractions. However, on this occasion, I did not in fact see anybody lose their mind and start running a shopping cart into somebody's headlights until they broke out. This is a situation that maybe have happened, but it doesn't happen in my presence. So this one is pure fiction. Next, the first thing I caught while fishing was an eel. Ring the bell. That's a fact. I had been fishing 3 times at that point with my father at different locations, and this time I was at the Barnegat Bay, and it turns out that it was maybe my second or third cast. Reeled in this eel. Thing showed up. I didn't know what to do with it because it was an eel. It's not a fish. I was totally caught by surprise. Didn't know what to do with it. Put it on the thing, threw it back in the water. Lost my mind. Dad was happy. You caught something. Yay. And I didn't kill any extra bait because that's what I used to do back then, was squeeze the eyes out of the little bait fish, which was not a good thing. It's when he started getting squid, frozen squid or worms. But yeah, I did catch an eel, the first thing I caught when I was fishing. It took me 3 times, but you know what they say, third time's a charm, right? There it was. This one is fact. Next, I fell down the stairs a week after I tore my bicep. Well, when you have kids in the house and it's bedtime and they don't want to go to sleep, there's going to be times that you do have to run up the stairs and regulate. Let them know it's time to go to bed. All this stuff needs to stop. Close your eyes, go to sleep. And wouldn't you know who ended up getting the biggest prize of all, because I didn't decide to turn on the stairway light. That would be this guy. I, in fact, fell, like I said, I think I fell off the second to the bottom step off the landing. So when I fell, I hit the landing. I scraped the outside of my shin and I strained my calf. Something fierce. Took about 3 weeks for that calf strain to really go away. Had to constantly put antibacterial ointment on the scrape, which was probably about 8 inches down my shin. Realistically, I'm glad that I actually landed on my left side and it didn't affect my torn bicep anymore, but realistically, from what I understand, is as damaged as it is, there's really nothing that could make it any worse except for delaying repair. But as far as practicality, I don't think it's going to get any worse, if you know what I mean. So that was a positive, but knowing that the house is built on a slab of concrete, that could have gone wrong so many more ways. I could have come up with even more injuries at one time. But fortunately, it did not. But in truth, yeah, about a week after I tore my bicep, I did in fact fall down the stairs. This is fact. Final story. Pizza delivery guy dropped my pizza. I'm not going to elaborate into this one because, quite literally, if that had happened, most likely I would be in handcuffs right now. And I would not be doing this show. Everybody knows how I feel about pizza. So, for me to even insinuate in any way that a pizza delivery guy dropped my pizza, clearly that didn't happen. Because had it happened, it would be on the news. Rest assured, it would definitely be on the news. So, without question, This one is fiction. Now it's time for me to ring the bell and call the main event over for now. That has been Fact or Fiction number 14. Hope you liked it. But now it's time to get back into some more pressing matters, shall we? I had said the week before, because I didn't get the one game score down, that I was going to go back to that and tell you where I stood. After week 1 and week 2, I was 6-3 as far as my picks went, but I didn't go and tell you about the score for the Texans and the Bears because I hadn't finished watching the game. I actually fell asleep. But now that I'm up and about, I can tell you that the final score of that game was 13-9 Texans. My score was 27-10 Texans. Thus, I got the win on that one. So after 2 weeks, my picks are 7-3. I feel pretty good about that. I definitely do. Now, I'm going to go into what I feel are the picks for week 3. Granted, I know, I'm way behind. In order for this to work, I would have had to have done it 1 week, recorded the episode the next week with the results, but I didn't because of this surgery coming up, and I just didn't quite have the time to do it. So, bear with me. I'm going to tell you what my picks are for week 3. And by the time this episode comes out, or I should say next episode comes out, I will probably be able to tell you my picks for week 4, but even an episode after that, so maybe 3 weeks, I'll give you the results of my week 3 and 4 picks. So, my goodness, I'm going to have to go deep into the crystal ball because, boy, by the time that this all takes place, it's definitely in the future. One thing that I can tell you right now is the Jets and the Patriots. In fact, I might as well tell you that one because I actually know the result of that game. Watched that one last night. That one is a win for me. I picked the Jets to win 27-10. The Jets did win 24-3, which means that my record will stand at 8-3. However, these other games have not happened yet as I'm recording, but I'll give you the results of those when, like I said, a couple weeks down the road. I have the Giants and the Browns. Now, I think the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL, but both of these two teams, again, they have 2 very high lottery picks, in my opinion, coming to their teams. But I think the Browns are just a little better. Did I already go over these ones? I might have. But I'll go over them again just to make sure that it's accurate when the time comes, and I'll let you know the scores in a couple weeks overall. Browns will beat the Giants in what I call the lottery game because both of those 2 quarterbacks won the lottery, making a whole lot of money that neither one of them deserve. Browns win 17-9. Vikings, Texans, I think I did, but I'll do it one more time. The Vikings are pretty good. The Texans are really good. I see the Texans going crazy, 42-20 over the Vikings. Now, the team that I think is the worst team in the entire league, well, that's the Carolina Panthers. And it turns out that as I'm recording, their quarterback got benched. And they're bringing in a backup quarterback. And do I think he's going to make a difference? Not really. In the long run, they may win 2-3 games now, as opposed to when I thought they were going to lose every game. I think that they're not going to win this one. Panthers lose 21-7 over the Raiders. And of course, the 49ers and Rams. I hate the Rams. My personal heart pick would be 49-0. But using my brain, I think the 49ers are going to win this one a little bit closer because they've gotten a few injuries. And the Rams are not quite the team that everybody thinks they are. I think it'll be close. 30-27 49ers. And now I'm going to go into week 4. What do I think is going to happen in week 4? This goes real deep into the crystal ball. Real deep. Giants and Cowboys. At the Meadowlands. I think that you would be crazy to think that the Giants are going to beat the Cowboys in any kind of way. The Saints, who blew the Cowboys apart, were actually a really good team. But the Giants, man. The Giants are they're not good. They're really not good. Don't expect the Giants to win. This is going to be blowout week, in my opinion, of my picks. And I see that happening. Truly happening. I like this game to be 35-10 Cowboys. Another blowout. My Panthers, boy. Whew. The smell coming off of them is just unbearable. And they play the Bengals, and the Bengals go to Carolina and eat them alive. They've proved that they're the big cat. 42-7 Bengals over the Panthers. The Minnesota Vikings are going to drop to a team in their division that I think is just a hair better than them. Packers will beat the Vikings 28-27 in week 4. Buffalo Bills and Ravens. Those two are going to be hanging around somewhere, getting close to the AFC Championship game. In my opinion, one of these two teams will be in the AFC Championship game. Maybe not both, but I definitely like one of them there. And the one I'm leaning towards is Buffalo. I think the Bills 23, the Ravens 17. Now, having some foresight and having seen what happened to the Patriots against the Jets, as long as the 49ers maintain the way that they're playing with their hard-nosed running game, and they can stay a little bit more injury-free, they can hold up a little bit better, I'm going to change my thought to this game. My original thought was 20-28 49ers, but I'm going to change it because I think the 49ers are going to run all over them, just like the Jets did. And I could see that this could turn out to be a 28-14 game, 49ers. That's my week 4. And like I said, give me another week or so, and I will try to catch up. I'm going to do week 5 in the next episode that I'm going to do, and by then I will have hopefully gotten past week 3. I don't know. Hard to tell. Probably. In fact, probably not. Because I want to have a few more in the tank so that I can actually rest and get this bicep tear mentally and physically over my head so that when I start therapy I have a little bit of clarity. So most likely I'm going to give you my week 5 picks, but probably not going to have the picks for week 3, 4, or 5 until maybe like end of October, somewhere in that neighborhood. But that's why I have to get it on the record now, so you hear the pick that I made, and so that when I actually give you the scores, it'll look more accurate. So right now, I'm sitting pretty, 8-3. Let's see how much I can do the rest of the year. That's going to be my picks. Now I'm going to move on to the Spear of the Week, which can only be one person. And anybody who, as of the time that I'm recording this on September 20th, has seen any of my reels, I did a reel about a certain supermarket that had a crazy setup for you to use the bathroom. And the simple fact that I had to wait in line behind a couple other customers who were just waiting for other things. Now, granted, one of the first things you learn how to do in kindergarten is wait in line. However, when somebody is simply asking to use the bathroom and everybody else has a complex matter, it seems like you might want to just say, let's just let this individual use the restroom and then we can get your other situations taken care of. Not here. Spear of the Week definitely goes to the customer service people at Giant, just off of Cotman Ave and Bustleton, in the great city of Philadelphia, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Customer service lady, you get the Spear of the Week, and you best hope that I don't have to pee, because if I do, in the process of giving the spear, I just might pee on myself, and that would be a terrible embarrassment, which I would really not like. But customer service lady at Giant, you're the Spear of the Week. Now it's time to put another show in the can and finish it up. I'm going to tell you that the painting that you've been looking at for this entire episode, a one of one, as all of my paintings are, one of one, is called Spin. I just simply took the brush and just spun it around, and that's what I got. It's what I got. Art is so much fun. It's a lot of fun. That's why I can't wait until I can do my interview with the artist. I'm excited, but like I said, having this surgery is going to certainly put me in a situation where I have to put it off a little longer than I wanted to. But rest assured, that interview is coming. Be ready for it, because you're going to enjoy the interview with the artist. You really will. YouTube people who have not subscribed, I ask you to subscribe at Phil the Lip. I've already mentioned that you can hear the other Fact or Fiction episodes on Spotify. Check out, that's where the archives are. There's probably 160 plus episodes of the show that are waiting for you to listen to. Is a terrible word, isn't it? Check out the Instagram page at Philip Henderson 5. No, not at Philip Henderson. Philip Henderson 5102. I'm on X somewhere. Look me up. It shouldn't be too hard to find. And of course, there is the Lip Facebook group. Join us. There is always room for one more. Join us. Now it's time for the words of wisdom. There's always going to be those people that just won't go away. Part of your circle at some point, but you just don't want to be around them. Now, for some people, it's easy, like me. When there's those people you don't want to be around, you just not around them. It's just easy. You're not missing anything. For me, it's easier to avoid a person that I'd rather not be around than to be around people who I like to be around, if that makes any sense. So some people would say, oh, but you're missing out on the person that you really like because of the one person. You shouldn't do that. Well, to me, it's more important to not be around the person I don't want to be around than it is important for me to be with the people who I'd like to be around. And thus, for the person that I'd rather not be around, these would be the words of wisdom that I would have for that individual. Hanging out with you sounds like as much fun as going to have drinks with the Reverend Jim Jones. One more time. Hanging out with you sounds like as much fun as going to have drinks with the Reverend Jim Jones. For those of you who don't know who Jim Jones is, the Reverend Jim Jones is somebody you need to look up. And after you look up Reverend Jim Jones, you will understand why it's not a good idea to have drinks with him. On that note, my name is Phil, and you've just listened to The Lip.